And we are back for another outstanding episode of the Square Table Degenerates. Today we welcome to the show wrestling legend, and I say legend, Mr. Sam Houston. How are you today, my friend?
Thank you. I'm very, very good. I'm on the right side of the dirt again today. So any day like this is a good one.
Right, like I've heard you say, and I've said it many times before. Any day above ground's a good day, right?
That's it. That's it. It's been almost 2 years ago they diagnosed me with stage 3 lung cancer. And well, they diagnosed me with stage 1 first, and then I had the biopsy and they removed part of the lung. And then after they did that, then they came and they told me, "Sir, we're sorry, but your stage 1 is now stage 3 lung cancer." And they told me I needed to do chemotherapy, targeted radiation, and then they were going to put me on this $17,500 pill a month. And I was on the phone with Black Bart every other day, and he was undergoing the chemotherapy, and he was just telling me how bad it was. And I didn't want to choose my way to die like that. And
Mm-hmm.
I agreed to the targeted radiation, but then the medicine man came down from North Minnesota, and he did a eagle bones healing ceremony on me and took the cancer out of my body. It was really wild because one week I had stage 3. The next week I go to the radiology clinic and they said, "Sir, we can't find any cancer in your body. What have you done?" I changed my diet and things like that. But, you know, ever since then, I've had a new lease on life, and I want to push forward and do as much good as I can, help as much as I can and be there for folks.
Hell yeah! I looked up that reservation up there. It's interesting. That's like closed. Like you can't get in there or do anything unless you get
Huh.
permission from the tribe or whatnot.
Right, right. Well, my tag team partner, I've been a member of that or I've been a member of that tribe for over about 30 years. I'm part Cherokee on my mom's side, and then part Comanche on my father's side. And then, but Charlie Norris, my tag team partner, he was a Chippewa from the Red Lake Reservation. And I believe it was one of our first trips up there. I went through all the tests and everything like that, and became part of the tribe. I ran out during a powwow to the veterans of the VFW, their song, and I was dancing and I laid like $500 down on the ground to show honor. I thought I was doing it for the princess dance, but went out one song too soon, and then I got called out, and they honored me by making me a member of their tribe, and then Charlie's family adopted me into their family. So
Okay.
what an honor that was, yeah. So I've got really good ties up there. His family is my family, and it's wonderful. Matter of fact, I'll be going back up there in July for
Okay.
their big powwow.
Okay. That's a perfect segue to what I was going to start out with randomly. I listened to a couple of interviews you talking about the Indian stuff, and I looked up the original Sam Houston. The guy back in Texas in the 1840s and all that. And
Uh
I
huh.
realized he lived with a bunch of Indian tribes prior to being like president of Texas and governor of Tennessee and governor of Texas and senator of Texas. And he's the
Yeah,
only person to ever be governor of two states, is Sam Houston. That's an interesting fact.
I didn't know that. Now I did know that he was the last governor of the. Well, I know he was the last president of the Republic of Texas and the first governor of the state of Texas.
Yep. Only person to ever be governor of two different states. Now, did
I didn't know
you
that.
did you use this lore to pick your ring name? If not, how did you come about with the ring name Sam Houston? Where did that come about?
When I went to break in the business and everything, George Weingroff, it wasn't like it is today. There wasn't schools and stuff like that. You had to be tough enough, and usually guys got stretched way out of shape. Well, the first time I got in the ring with George Weingroff, I mean, boy, he put me through it. I mean, he really did. I mean, he showed me some things and stuff, and then, I mean, when it came down to it, he hooked me, he sugared me. He didn't knock me out. Uh, but I came back the next week later and stayed in the ring with him, and he couldn't sugar me. And then he told me he went to my dad and told my dad. He said he's ready. And my dad said, "This business is not for you. I've already lost you once. I'm not going to lose you again." I had my tonsils taken out when I was 17 and died on the table for 2 minutes. And that's what these scars are for. I didn't
Okay.
eat food that year from April the 2nd to August the 13th. I
Oh,
went from
geez.
230 pounds, 230 pounds down to about 130 pounds.
God
Um,
damn.
yeah, it was bad. I woke up in the intensive care unit after I'd been in a coma for 2 weeks. And I told my mom, I said, "Mom, they nicked my pharynx." And she said, "You mean larynx?" I said, "No, they said pharynx in the operating room." And then I went to sleep. Well, when I woke up the next morning, I'm in a private room now. I'm not in the ICU. I'm in a private room. And wow, this is great. My folks are sitting on a couch and everything. And it was good. And I seen what time it was. It was almost time for Mid South Wrestling. So I got the remote and I hit Mid South Wrestling. Boyd Pierce and Cowboy Bill Watts are on there. And Boyd Pierce says, "Ladies and gentlemen, matchmaker Grizzly Smith won't be here this evening. His son Mike, which a lot of you know, is in a struggle for his life, not expected to make it, blah, blah, blah." And I look at my dad and he said, "Son, that was taped Wednesday. Today is Saturday. You're okay now." But anyway, he didn't want me to break in the business. So when I left home, I ran away from home. I talked to Dusty one night in New Orleans and he told me, come on down to Florida. And I went down to Florida, and he had me come to the office. I went to the office, and I seen what was going on with Mike Von Erich and stuff like that. And I knew what happened to Jake when Jake tried to wrestle under uh, Jake Smith Jr. and stuff like that. So I knew, what was in store for guys. And I told Dusty, I didn't want anything handed to me. I wanted to earn it, and I
Right.
wanted to deserve it. And because I really respected the business. The business was the most important thing in my life. And anyway, Dusty says, I told Dusty, I said, "I don't want any favors because of my name." He goes, "Okay." I said, "I don't want to use my name." And he goes, "Well, baby, now your name is Mike Sam Houston from Waco, Texas." And September 13th, J.J. Dillon, I guess, had talked to, I just found out a couple of years ago that J.J. Dillon had talked to Dusty because I was always there, had my bag and everything. They just never got the shot. And J.J., I guess, told Dusty something. He's always here. He said, "Give him a shot." And September 13th, 1983, I wrestled Charlie Cook in the Tampa Fort Homer Hesterly Auditorium. I've got to wrestle in a whole lot of great places. I know it was a dump and stuff like that, and I know they tore it down, but the history of that building, like the Laranger Coliseum, and Laranger's a small town 50 miles outside of Baton Rouge, and they had an old skating rink that they refurbished, and it was where they had the wrestling. This fella, Skeets Hewitt, it was the promoter. He had a race, a dirt track. He had the Laranger Coliseum and then mini golf,
Oh, hell yeah.
at his thing. So anyway, but to me, that place would hold 2,500 people, close to 3,000 people, and every Saturday night, that's where all the boys wanted to be working because you got a great payoff, and it wasn't far from home. So I grew up there every Saturday night. Oh, it was a horrible place. I grew up there every Saturday night going to the matches with my dad. And the first time I got to wrestle in that place, it was like, for me, it was like the Madison Square Garden or something. I've got to work in the Superdome. I've got to work in the Garden. I've got to wrestle in all these wonderful places all over the world. And I did it all as Sam Houston. Well, I was the Dos Hombres for a little bit with Kendall Windham, and then I was the Dirty Yellow Dog one time, and then I was the James Boy's other brother one time, and I was the Midnight Rider for a while. So,
Okay.
you know,
We got a question coming in from
Sure.
Captain. He's from the UK. He says, "What is the best tag team of all time, and why was it the British Bulldogs?"
And why was it the British Bull? Wait, what was the best tag team of all time? Well, the Renegades. Myself and Charlie Thunderblood Norris. We didn't get all the hoopla and everything else like that. But for an independent tag team like us, we were able to go to Japan 5 times undefeated. So it was pretty cool. No, but there was a lot of great tag teams. As far as it depends on what you're asking for. If you're looking for heat, the Assassins. Jody Hamilton and Tom Renesto. I mean, the people were trying to kill them every night. Uh, they wrestled my dad and Luke Brown, the Kentuckians, all the time when I was a little boy. And the just violence, the viciousness, just everything, and they knew how to do that. They knew how to get heat. A lot of guys today really don't know how. British Bulldogs were a great tag team, but the way you have to look at stuff, because people always go, "Hey, who's the better champion, Flair or Hogan?"
Right.
You really, it's hard to answer that question because you have to look at who put more butts in seats. You got to look at box office and everything else like that. It's no longer about a craft. It's a lot about the promotion and stuff like that. My gosh, Bubba Monroe, Sputnik Monroe's son, was probably one of the greatest workers of all time, but nobody hardly ever got to see him. He never left the Texas and Louisiana area. Oh gosh, as far as getting in the ring and having a match and beating the crap out of some, I had fun with him.
Well,
But
back to the British Bulldogs though. How was Dynamite Kid and David Boy Smith? Like, and just were they partiers? Did they kick it? Were they fun to work with? What's the deal there?
I mean, I was on the road with them and stuff like that. I hung out. I was friendly with them in at the dressing room and then the arenas, but I really didn't get into. I wasn't, drinking and partying with them. I kind of had my own thing.
Okay, okay. So tell me about growing up. Your dad was in the business, obviously, and I
Uh-huh.
read that you lived with him in the bayou. So you talk about Louisiana for a little bit. So was it kind of like Bobby Boucher and Waterboy? If
No,
not,
no,
what
no,
was
no,
a lot of
not
it
for
like?
me. No, no, but oh gosh, I was living with. We moved from. Let's see. Well, how'd that go? Boom. Okay. I When I got out of the eighth grade, I went to 3 schools in the eighth grade. We come out to. I moved down to Louisiana with me and my dad. We were on the road, and we moved down to Louisiana when I went in the ninth grade at Airline High School. And I got to wrestle on the wrestling team there in the ninth grade, all the way through the ninth grade, and then part of the 10th grade. And then my oldest sister was kidnapped, or she was taken 2 days before Thanksgiving. And um, let's see, uh, had to quit the wrestling team. But at that time, when I was in the ninth grade, I'd started working in gas stations and stuff. There was a mobile station that my dad did business with, and that was full service and stuff. So I learned, my mechanic and skills and stuff like that from working full service gas station, have air in the tires, because people put that's back when they had full service.
Right.
Anyway, I got the job from Watts for I was already doing setting up the ring some, but I got the job to do the TV ring every other week when I was like 14, 15 years old. And then the first time I helped set up a ring, I was 9 years old. And anytime we got to the matches early or anything like that, I always loved, getting in there and helping out because that would let me get in the ring and run against the ropes and stuff like that. So I did that as a kid. When I started with the ring crew, then I was doing that and traveling on my own, this, that, and the other. I had, no adult supervision since the time I was probably 12, 13 years old. But anyway, I did all that, and then I had the surgery and stuff. But growing up with my dad's son, yeah, it was something. It was rough, different.
For
I
sure,
was
for
held
sure.
to the same. I was held to the same standards as the wrestlers, at 15 years old.
Oh, so you were already getting into the. Were you already in shape? You were pretty good shape back then, right? In high school.
Oh yeah, yeah. I wrestled for a year and a half and then we went down to moved down to Baton Rouge, and I finished out the 11th grade. No, I went like part of the way through the 11th grade, and then I had my tonsils taken out, and then they said, well, I was going to have to redo the 11th grade, and I didn't want to be held back. So I went ahead and took my GED and worked really hard getting my weight back up,
Okay.
and so I could get in this business because it was the most important thing in my life at that time. You
Okay.
know,
So when you turned 18, you weren't. There was no thinking about like the service or going to college. You were go right into wrestling then.
I'm going into wrestling. Yeah, I knew what I wanted. Well, when I signed up for the service after the surgery, because you had to sign up with somebody when you turned 18, and
Hmm.
I'd already just had the surgery on my neck. And what caused me to the gas they give you when they poked a hole in the back of my pharynx, and they gave me the gas, and I guess I had a massive heart attack, and that's what flatlined me uh, when I was 17. So when I went to go sign up, they rejected me because of young kid had a heart attack.
Okay.
For
Okay.
medical
So
reasons.
medical thing. Okay. All right. Now talk about the territory days. Did you just work anywhere back then? And was it kind of about like the connections, with your dad and how you knew it, or did you have to be like the right place at the right time?
A lot of it's the right place at the right time. Let's see. I started in the territories and down in Florida. Then I went up to for Crockett. Then Crockett sent me from hit the Charlotte office out to the Kansas City, which was the territory there, the Kansas City territory. So that's where I was a Central States champion, and then had a falling out with Crockett, and went down and worked for Watts for UWF, and I was there 7 months, and then yeah, I was there for like 7 months, and um, let's see, what was it? 7 months. Oh yeah, and then Crockett bought Watts out. So when he bought Watts out, he said, "We're not firing nobody except you." And so I made a phone call, and I guess they've been watching me up there, and they brought me in, and did some stuff with me. I worked for Vince for I guess 4.5 years, 87 to 91,
Okay.
beginning of
Did you have a favorite besides WWF? Did you have a favorite territory then? Maybe the Dusty Rhodes Mid Atlantic. What was one of the better ones you worked in?
Well, for me, the action working for Mid South, or for UWF was awesome. I mean, the road was hard. I mean, we were putting 3,000, 3,500 miles a week on your car, and doing all these miles. Um, that was hard, um, but it was a great territory. As far as just really living the life and just enjoying everything, yeah, that's got to be Florida. You know, you don't got to leave for any town before 2 o'clock or 1:30. Everything could be made in 4 or 5 hours, or it just depends. If you base yourself in Tampa, where you're living at. It's like when Mid South was only in Louisiana and Mississippi. It was cool, the Baton Rouge or Shreveport the guys usually lived in, and then or no, when it was all of it, it was Shreveport everybody wanted to live in. Then it was down to the two. Then everybody wanted to live in Alexandria, Louisiana, because it was in the middle of the state. And then when Watts opened back up again, everybody wanted to live in Shreveport, or some people had bought houses in Alexandria, like Duggan and them. But everybody wanted to live in Dallas or Shreveport. To
Okay. Now, 3,500 miles a week in your car, man. How did you like cope with just constantly traveling? I mean, did we just coffee all the time? What's the deal there?
well, coffee during the daytime, and then you were drinking beer at night.
Oh my goodness. So you were
That
just
was the culture. You know. I was telling him we were talking. I was talking to Johnny Mantell a few years back at the Hall of Fame banquet in Wichita Falls. We were talking about then just the traveling that we used to do, and the things that we used to do to stay awake. There was lots of, like, I would say, substance usage and misusage and abuse. But that's the lifestyle that you lived.
Man, that's
Horrible. I
I
mean,
know.
so
Well, I see it. I know you guys are around the same age bracket. You, your brother, you, Brutus, and all them, and just the guys I've talked to over the years. It's just that travel aspect. I never see anybody like remember that fondly. It just beats you up. I mean, don't
oh,
get
it
me wrong.
does.
I like traveling, but traveling 6, 7 days a week. You're out 300 days a year. You don't get to see your hometown, but maybe two, three, a couple months. I mean, my goodness, does that's got to affect you long term, though. I mean, that's got to.
Well, you start thinking, yeah, it does. I mean, you start believing all the publicity that's written about you. You start believing everything you see that you're doing on TV and blah, blah, blah. And then you start thinking you're Superman. You got to outdo everybody else. The drinking thing was my thing. I was going to outdrink anybody under the table. That was just it. I got up to where I was drinking 3 fifths a day thank God I got almost 17 years without a drink, but uh, I was bad. I finally figured it out. It took me a long time to figure it out. You know, I don't have a problem drinking. I have a problem stopping. I can't stop. I'm not going to stop until I pass out. So I don't want to live my life like that no more. And I want to be the best thing I can be for anybody else. And I learned a lot in prison. I mean, I did time in prison, the whole 9 yards. I was one of the worst. I was so bad. Society said, we don't want you in it no more. We're going to put you in, jail. And that's what they did. Um, I did everything I could to help myself as far as working on myself. Uh, just everything, any kind of class I could take. I mean, I can do plumbing work now. I can do a lot of things, and but they put me in a maximum security disciplinary camp because I was a security threat because I'm a professional athlete. And I don't know, I just did everything I could and uh, to better myself. A lot of memories and stuff come back to you and stuff like that. And what came back to me was, and I got in a bad fight in Tensaw. Came out on top, which was, but what was so dangerous there was guys would take a put a master lock on a shoestring, whip you in the head with it, or jug you up with toothbrushes and stuff. Anyway, the guy stole my commissary, and I went after him. I reported it first, and then they said, "Oh, handle it, handle it, handle it." That means strap up and go to the back. So I did. I found out who did it, and went in there and handled it. And anyway, uh, they pulled me out, and I had to go before the warden. And the warden figured out who I was, and it freaked him out. He said, "What are you doing here?" He said, "You've been a model inmate and this, that, and the other." He said, "This is the only trouble you've been in. This is a horrible place." He said, "I'm going to do you a favor." He said, and he sent me to a Class A trustee camp. He told me it's a work camp, and that I would, they expected me to work every day. And he said, "But I'm going to send you here and give you a chance." And then what was great about that place is you were able to go outside the gates of the prison and work, for the town. I worked for the road crew for about 10 months, clearing culverts, laying or fixing potholes, all kinds of stuff. But, it was, I found then one night I was sitting there and it dawned on me one of the greatest um, compliments I ever got in my life was from Paul Ellering, the Road Warriors manager. And he said, Sam, I was coming back from the ring in Philadelphia, and he said, Sam, he goes, do you know why I love watching your matches so much? And I was like, no, why? He said, because you go that one step further. And through my alcoholism and everything else like that, I quit going that one step further. I just went far enough, far enough just to get the job done and not to be super spectacular and not to be, I was going to do something anyway every night to be remembered, but I wasn't going to, just push myself to the limit. I was going to do just enough to get by. And I got that way for a lot of years. And in that prison, that's when I found out that I wanted to go that one step further. So I worked hard on the road crew for like 10 months. And then that got me to working on the Air Force Base in Alexandria, Louisiana. And that was cool because my deal was I'd get to work for the military. They'd throw me a set of keys for a John Deere tractor and two MREs, uh, and then tell me what gun range to go change targets and go, bush hog and stuff. So that was really cool. I spent 4 months doing that. Then after that, after I completed all that, when I got eligible for work release to go make some money on the outside, that's when they offered me the substance abuse program. Uh, and because they wouldn't let me get it, anybody else could go and get it right away and knock time off. I had to knock my time off with all kinds of other different things. I didn't get the benefit from the class that much, but I got a few days, so I'm cool with it. But what I did gain was knowledge about what was going on with me, and I'm going to be doing some things about that knowledge to try to help other people that want to be helped. You
Oh, for
know,
sure. It's
you
funny you
know.
mentioned that, man. I remember those when I was at McGuire Air Force Base back in '08. I remember the crews from the local prison coming out and doing exactly what you're talking about. It makes me laugh.
Oh yeah. Well, dude. Okay. What I loved it. The only thing that actually scared me was one time they were and they're firing live rounds. You know, when that's why you're changing targets and stuff, is when they don't tell that you're on the range right next to somebody firing live rounds, and you're out there, and all of a sudden you hear the gunshots and everything, and then you're in a prison outfit. Like you're not going to matter that much.
Right. All right, we got a question from JV. He says, "What was the worst injury you've ever had in the ring?"
I, I had blew my neck out. I was wrestling one man gang, and it was Kevin Sullivan was managing him. And I don't know if it was gangs clubbing forearms or Kevin hit me in the back of the head with a tire iron, but it blew my neck out. I woke up the next morning. I was partially paralyzed just on the left side of my body. Um, and that took Dr. Schaffner out in California 9 months to get me back on my feet. And, and I still suffer with it now. I'm getting help though. And then I was in the Northridge earthquake and I re injured it, knocking doors down on our condos to get people out. And then so Dr. Schaffner worked on me another 6 months. And then my career was over. And I was done. I'd been hurt. I was partially paralyzed. I didn't want to go through that ever again. And then me and Charlie Norris got reacquainted in Atlanta. Uh, and he helped me with my dad. My dad had to have an emergency surgery and his stomach removed and staph infection. It was just a long story. And when I brought dad back to the hotel, I saw Charlie. And Charlie and I had wrestled each other years before at his WWF tryout. And anyway, but he helped me with my dad. I started training him or helping him work out at the development of the power plant, WCW's power plant.
Mhm.
We started working out 2 to 3 hours a day, every day in the ring. And after a couple of months, he said, Sam, he said, you need to be back in there. And I told him, I said, Charlie, I said, I've been hurt, man. I said, I don't want it no more. And he said, no, he goes, I'm 3 inches taller than you. He said, I'm 60 pounds heavier than you. He goes, we get in the ring. He goes, I'm giving you everything I got. And he goes, and I still can't do nothing with you. He said, you need to be back in there. And then I started thinking about it. I said, well, maybe if we were in a tag situation, you know. And he said, well, you and your brother would be great. And I said, no, Jake could probably throw me to the wolves. And I told him, I said, I need somebody that I know that if I get hurt, they're coming in, they're killing everybody. And I said, I said, it ought to be you. So we talked about it. We come up with the name, the Renegades, and the whole 9 years. I went to talk to Jim Barnett about it. Oh, I loved the idea and stuff like that. But the next week, you had Charlie and Dustin tag up, and I was like, okay, well, I'm getting out of here. I'm going back to L.A. And I went back to California. And then Charlie, whenever his contract, whenever he got let go from WCW and all that stuff happened, then we finally hooked up and we wrestled out of the Dallas office for quite a while. And we made 5 trips to Japan, 1 trip to New Guinea. We were almost eaten by cannibals.
New Guinea, huh? Tell me more about New Guinea. Like, what
Oh,
was the flight like in there? I mean, is everybody like really like 5 feet tall? I mean, what's the deal with all this?
yeah, and their feet are real short, but they're really wide because they run up coconut trees. Um, I went outside to smoke a cigarette because you couldn't smoke in the nice marble hotels, the government hotels. Uh, so I go outside to smoke a cigarette, and here comes this guy walking towards me, and he's like 5 foot nothing, and he's wearing a Tarzan loincloth. He's got this great big curved machete, a grass knife on his hip. He's got a bow and arrow slung over his shoulder, and he's got a spear in his hand. He's got a bone through his nose, bones through his nipples, a vertebrae in his ears, like gauges or something. Um, and he's walking straight. He's wearing a feather headdress, but not like a Native American headdress. This is like something out of Gilligan's Island thing. And he's walking straight up toward me, and I'm thinking I'm gonna hear something like that. And then he goes, "Pardon me, mate. Can I bub a smoke?" And I was like, "Damn, you talk better English than I do." I gave him a cigarette, I lit a cigarette. He walked off. As he walked off, I'm looking, and here comes a woman walking down the street. She's got a waist strap on. She's nursing a baby on one breast, and my hand to God, a piglet on the other. It was wild. I was signing autographs, and they carried me away, and the Australian Army had to come get me. They were carrying me out to the gates, and that's when the officer in the Australian Army goes, "Mate," he goes, "You ever watch Bugs Bunny?" Yeah. And he said, "You know the one with the Ethiopian?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "There was a big black pot in your future, mate." He said, "They were going to eat me so that my spirit would live through them."
Oh,
And I
geez.
told him, I said, "Sam Houston tastes like chicken." you know? Anyway, yeah. And then 2 days later, they said, I don't go nowhere by yourself. Don't go nowhere by yourself. So 2 days later, me and Charlie go right next door. There's a small grocery store. We go right next door to get water. And we'll get there. There's only one bottle, but it's a half-gallon bottle. So that's cool. We get up, and like 3,000 of the rascals had surrounded the store trying to get us. They had to get the army out to get us in too. It was wild. Um, we'd go after the matches, we'd go get a case of beer and go up to our room and go out on the balconies, and we'd sit there, and they have this nut that grows on a tree. It's called beetle nut, and it gives them a cocaine high. They chew this all day long, but it gives and spit out this really red spit. But it gives them a cocaine high, and they do that all day long. And then at night, in the dark, then somebody will come out. They live in like little grass huts, like Gilligan's Island. Somebody will come out of this little group of grass huts, and somebody will come out to this one, and they'll take out their little grass knives and start hacking away on each other. You know, it
That's
was
crazy, man.
wild.
That's
You
crazy,
know,
man. All right, we
yeah,
got
I'm
a
glad
question.
we got back from there. My dad was the one that was booked the tour for us. We got back from there, and I just told my dad, "You're fired." You know?
All right, we got a
Yeah.
question from JV. He says, "Did Jake ever give you advice, good or bad, when you were breaking into the business?"
Well, yeah, Jake always, messed with me and kidded me around and stuff like that. But my brother's, first of all, he's got the best mind in the business. Yeah, he did set me up a couple of times. I took one hell of an ass whipping from the Road Warriors, and then I went and thanked him for the opportunity. And that's when Hog goes, "Hey, Jake, he's not the asshole. You are," because he'd really buried me to them, and they were real good friends. But now, Jake's always been able to like. He'll give you great advice. He has given me pointers and heads up and stuff like that, and warned me on things. So I appreciate everything like that he's ever done for me. Um, but yeah, he had the best mind in the business, and what impresses me so much about my brother is I've seen him give people, guys that and they're looking for advice, but they're not on that level yet.
Right, right.
Yeah, and he will go ahead and he'll open himself up and he'll do the things, and give them things that will help them, you know. But it's up to them to pick up that knowledge and carry it with them. You can teach somebody a move, you know, and stuff like that. But to try to teach somebody the psychology, and that's what Jake takes his time to do. He tries to not just the moves and stuff like that, but the psychology behind it.
For sure, for sure. All right, we got a question from JB. He says, "What was Vince McMahon like to deal with during your time there?"
With me, it was all I was cool. I mean, I didn't have a up close personal relationship, nothing like that. I was me. I did my thing, and you know, I don't like people giving me rules. Never have. You
Right,
know.
right.
So I didn't really, I used to get, my own dad used to find me in a place with no kayfabe. He'd find me $250 if I was in the same bar and a heel was in there. You know,
That's a great segue into the next one because I always remember you from the feud with Ron Bass. That's what I first remember you, all Ron Bass. And I remember Ron Bass mostly for when he got his haircut by Brutus, but that's a whole thing too. But
right?
now you just touched on that when you're feuding with someone in the traveling days. I mean, you start bonding with them, but you can't be seen at the bar. So like, is that a thing with WWE or WWF as well, or do you? I mean, like when
No,
the
with
show's over, is everyone
WWF,
gone?
it wasn't like that. I mean, everybody went to the same clubs and partied. It wasn't like that at all. Now, for Watts, that was a big thing, a big no-no for there. And yeah, I'm not sure, but when I went to work for Crockett and everything, let me move this a little bit. When I went to work for Crockett and everything, you had Dusty Magnum and me and our little thing, Rock and Roll Express and stuff like that. You had us, uh, but we were always in competition with the Four Horsemen, Flair and Tully and Ole and Arn, and then all the rest of the guys. We had Manny Fernandez. We just everybody would, and we'd be at the same clubs. Uh, but it was always a competition. So I guess it was like there wasn't a no kayfabe. I mean, you didn't have to worry about it there.
Okay.
Uh, but let's see. Florida wasn't that bad. They didn't go out of their way. But yeah, Watts and and I'm not sure. I never worked for Fritz or any of those guys, but I don't know, especially anything else like that. But I knew that territory Watts, boy, you get fined out the wazoo.
Well, speaking of the hotel bar, now you guys partied hard. I was watching some of your interviews and some of the stories about the drinking and the pranks and stuff make me laugh, man. Because like if it was anything like the service back then, we just used to do random shit to each other. Like some of the stuff I did, we used to take markers and people pass out. We draw dicks
Oh
in
yeah.
their face, write loser across their head, stuff like that. Or we put glitter in their hair. One time we had this guy. He passed out, right? So we took 5 different alarm clocks from rooms, right? And we
Uh-huh.
set them all like 4 hours before you're supposed to get up, but like 15 minutes apart. So he'd wake up, shut one off, wake, and he was look. Oh, it's fucking hilarious, man. So
I
like,
bet it was. I did something like that to Jake, and it had written "stupid" across his forehead. Then went and took him to the airport. So real early in the morning.
hey, tell me some of your favorite stories of. I mean, tell me that one. Even some other ones that just great, awesome party times. And
Well, I had just gotten up to WWF and everything, and when you're on the road with guys that like with me and Jake, we're on the road. We traveled together and stuff. But there were three major cities running every night, so uh, you know, there were three different tours going on. So it wasn't guaranteed which tour you were going to be on with who and this, that, and the other. So, but anyway, if Jake and me, we'd always hook up together, and Duggan would hook up with us too. Uh, but there were like three or four of us, that that you keep on a swinging thing. If you're together, you're going to rent a car. Well, anyway, so me, Duggan, and Jake, and we get to Boston, and we're wrestling in the Boston Gardens that night. And when we go, we stayed at that Logan Hilton Airport Hilton in Boston. So we go work the matches and everything. We come back. Well, when we're checking in, Jake comes to me and he goes, "Hey, bro, I was already using checking in, getting a room by myself at that time. I didn't want to bunk up with nobody else no more. Let's say Charlie or whatever." But uh, so as we're checking in, Jake goes, "Hey, man, the room's here like $160, and we're only going to be here for a few hours." Because we were going off on different tours, and he said, "Let's just share a room or split a room, and do our thing." I was like, "Okay." So I shared a room with Jake. Well, after the match, we come back, put our bags up, make our phone calls, going down to the bar. And back then, they used to drop halcyons on each other and stuff like that, and then shave an eyebrow off. That was going on back then. So I'm drinking my beer, and all of a sudden, I feel like everything's closing in, getting darker and darker and darker, and I know I've been H bombed. So to look at Jake and Duggan, and I said, "If I wake up with no eyebrows, I'm killing you both." They're like, "No, no, no, we're not like that. We're not like that." So I make it to the room. I get inside the room, I get my clothes off, and I pass out in the bed. Now I got a flight the next morning, but uh, I think Jake's was. Oh, no, no, no! I get there, I pass out. So that was the Wisconsin one. I get there, I pass out in the room, get all my clothes off, pass out. When I wake up in the morning, when you wake up from taking a halcyon, you wake up crisp, like you've already had a cup of coffee. And I woke up, and Damien's head is right here on my arm. And that big 14, 15-foot long snake is wrapped up. He's on the bed with me. And I wake up, and his head was big. And I wake up and I see that, and I jump straight to my feet and straight out of the room. And I'm running down the hall, and I realize I ain't got a stitch of clothes on. So I go back, I'm cooling down, go back, I'm banging on the door. He knows I don't have no clothes on. He ain't letting me in. I'm banging on, banging and banging. And finally, Duggan comes out, and he throws his bedspread over me, and I have to wait it out. He said he's not coming out until, or until, or he's not, yeah, he's not coming out until you're gone. So Jake took off and went to the airport, and he was on the road for like 6 weeks. We didn't see each other. Oh, I was stewing. Anyway, so we were in, I think, Wisconsin somewhere, and it was after a TV taping, and Jake had just came out on the cover of Ellery Queen magazine. And it's a little bitty like Reader's Digest like magazine,
Uh,
Crime magazine. So he was on the cover of that, and at the TV taping, he kept telling me, "Oh, I just came up on the Ellery Queen magazine." He goes, "People are noticing me everywhere." Because back then, we were just getting started. We're getting known, and when people away from the wrestling business start recognizing you, that's when you've achieved something special. So anyway, and he was wearing the Don Johnson Miami Vice suits and stuff. So after the matches, we come back, and they had a killer bar there. We come back, and we're sitting at the table, and all of a sudden, I guess one of Jake's beers had been doctored, and he started that lean, you know. So it's like, hey man, we gotta get you out of here. I said, I think you've been H bombed. I don't know, I said, but I gotta get you out of here. I can't let none of the rest of these guys do nothing to you. Huh? So I get him up and I carry him to the front desk, and I tell the lady uh, uh, that he's my brother, that I need his room key. Somebody, I think maybe a Mickey'd him in the bar or something, maybe I need to get back to his room. She said, well, you're checked into Houston and he's under Roberts. She goes, I can't give you his key. And I said, okay, ma'am. And I said, he's 6'7" and 270 pounds. I'll let him leave him here with you. And she said, sir, here's his key. So I took Jake back to the room. I laid him out on his bed, just threw him down there all in his clothes and stuff. I went over to the Spectravision on the TV, turned it on, and hit all the movie buttons. So he got charged for every one of the movies. I called up room service, got me a big steak dinner, called up the bar, got me a case of beer, a fifth of Crown Royal. I did it all, but it just wasn't enough. And as still laying there, I just laid out, and I look and I see him, and I see the alarm clock, and he's got a 6:30 flight in the morning, and it was a $5,000 fine if you missed your flight. Vince liked putting us on that first flight, but if you missed your shot and everything else like that, because you changed your ticket, it was a big fine. So I moved the time up 2 hours. Now I stayed in his room and I partied, I drank, everything, and then, but before I left, we all wore them little boogie bags, and you always carry a Sharpie marker so you can sign somebody's picture or something. So I pulled my Sharpie marker out and real big across his forehead I wrote "stupid." So now I moved his. He didn't get the wake up call. Now at 4 o'clock in the morning, I stayed awake. At 4 o'clock in the morning, his clock says it's 6 o'clock. At 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm banging on his door, hollering. Finally, I use the key, and then I go over there and I shake him like, Jake, come on, man, it's 6 o'clock. We got to get you to the airport. He's like, huh? And he comes up out of the bed and he's like, yeah. And well, it's 6 o'clock. And boy, we grabbed a snake bag and the whole 9 yards. He grabbed his stuff because he hadn't unpacked nothing. It's all still packed up. So we're walking down the hall, and when we walk by the lady at the front desk, he tosses her the key, and she goes, because she sees the thing, and he goes, yeah, baby, it's me, the snake. And he walks out, gets in the car. So as we're driving to the airport, I'm talking 90 miles an hour, this, that, and the other. I'm going to drop you off at the front yard, the thing. I said, I'll go return the rental car. If I see you inside, I'll see you inside. Well, when I dropped him off at the curb upside, he gets outside and he's looking. It's really dark. He's not thinking. So he walks on into the airport. There's hardly nobody there. So I go turn the car in. And when I come back up on the elevator, he's standing up there to the ticket agent at U.S. Air, and this pretty little girl, she was a blonde-headed lady. Anyway, as I walk up, her eyes, she was crying almost. The tears were in her eyes, and she was smiling real big, and she was and I'm nodding my head, And, oh, and anyway, so other ticket agents, they start coming out of those little offices and waving at Jake, and he said, "See what I mean?" He said, "Ellery Queen magazine. Everybody knows who I am." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's got to be it." He says to me, he goes, "It's only 4:17 in the morning, or 4:20 something in the morning." He said, I said, "Those damn British Bulldogs." I said, "I don't know how they got us, but they got us. But it had to be them." And he's like, "Did you turn the rental car in?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, let's go on and get breakfast then." So we go through security, and everybody's got pictures or cameras and taking pictures with Jake. And so we walk into the little restaurant. A lady's wiping down a table, and she looks up and she starts to snicker. And he goes, "Yeah, baby, this me the snake." You know, so we both get a coffee, and he sits down. She's bringing our coffee back, and he orders a big breakfast. I say, "Nothing for me." I said, "I'm good." So Jake looks over at me and he goes, "Man," he goes, "Everything's been going on so fast this morning." He goes, "I haven't had time to go to the bathroom." He goes, "I gotta go. I'll be right back." Soon as he walked in that bathroom, boom! I hit the front door of that airport, jumped in a cab, and stayed gone till I knew he was gone. My flight was about an hour after his, so we didn't see each other for about 2 months, and we walked in the dressing room in Toronto, Ontario. Jake knew I always got to the matches a few, earlier than most. And so his door was right there when you open his chair was right there when you opened the locker room door. Opened the door and went to look in, and he was right there. He goes, "Hey, bro." Ha, 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 ha. He had another chair. He goes, "Sit down." So I sit down. He goes, "Are we gonna have a problem?" I said, "I ain't doing nothing unless you do. And that stopped our ribbon. But there was another one too, where he got me to lift up the front end of the Lincoln Town Car because he'd run off the road, run the front end off the road, and the back end was on the dirt road. The back end was up in the air. And I had to push the front end of the Lincoln up so the back tires, it had rained, and the back tires hit the ground, and he spun out. Oh, yeah, I was covered in mud. It was a good time. But yeah, that's brotherly love, I guess.
Yes,
But yeah,
sir.
Jake's the best mind in the business more. So I'm really honored.
All right, we got a question from Captain, taking us a different direction. Who was the biggest arsehole you've ever worked with?
Oh gosh. Um, I guess Buzz Sawyer, probably. You know, Bud's like to try to do cheap shots and stuff like that if he could get away with them. He and I don't know. I have to what he tried to went to power slam me off the second turnbuckle or something like that. He went the wrong way, and if I hadn't caught it, and that's the most important thing that you have to remember when you get in this business, you have to protect yourself. You know, because some people will take liberties and they just don't care. They just want to get their little move in or what have you. I see these things all the time. Oh, yeah, you're going to be remembered for that. Probably got paid 10 hot dogs, but you'll never walk again. you But yeah, Buzz went to power slam me and he took me legs first instead of head first. But I was able to tuck my legs up underneath me and okay.
Okay. We got a question from JB. He says, I was shocked when Jake said he was actually scared of snakes. What do you think about snakes, and did you ever handle the snakes?
Well, yeah, I mean, I helped him with them and stuff like that. I'm not scared of them. I don't like them, but I'm not really scared of them. I had to help him with his all the time. Remember one night in Niagara Falls, the guys were horrible too. they go by and kick the snake bag or whatever. I've seen Hercules throw the bag in the air one time, and just stuff. And I'm thinking Jake's got to like deal with this thing, and y'all pissing it off. Well, anyway, we're sitting there in Niagara Falls, and I'm watching Jake's match, and he was wrestling. I think it was Nikolai Volkov. It might have been Ron Bass, so both of the body styles. And I wasn't thinking of the body when I got called to do what I had to do. Anyway, Jake threw the snake out, and when he did, he put it on. The snake come up and bit him underneath the armpit, and then bit him on the forearm, and then got his hand or something. And the snake rolled out to the floor underneath the bottom rope and was on the floor started going around the ring. And people on the front row thinking it's some sort of magic trick show. They're jumping, they're leaning over, smacking the snake in the back of the head like high-fiving it. You don't high-five it. So the snake has got his mouth open and he's going like this. So I'm standing there with Strongbow, and Chief Jay Strongbow goes, "Hey, Dancing Sam, you need to get out there and help your brother with that snake." And I said, "Chief, that's his snake, not mine." He goes, "Dancing Sam, you need to get out there and help your brother with that snake." And I was like I said, "Chief, that's his snake, not mine." He goes, "Dancing Sam, if you want to wake up in the morning still employed with the WWF, you're going to go out there and get that snake." And I was like, hell, here I go. Ripped my shirt off so everybody knew, the security knew I was a wrestler. Ran down to the ring, dove on Damien from behind, threw my shirt over his head, took him down to the ground, went down. I got his head right here, took him down to the ground. He wrapped his body around me and started choking me out. And Jake pulled him off of me just as I was passing out. He pulled him off of me. That was wild.
Damn.
So I didn't really particularly care for him, but And then one time we were doing an autograph signing at World of Wheels in Charlotte, and the car show. So I signed autographs for an hour and a half, and then it's his turn to come. So he throws me his room key. He says, "Hey," he goes, "hang around." He goes, "We'll have a beer after." Like, okay. So he throws me his room key. He says, "If you need to piss or anything like that," excuse me, "if you need to piss or anything like that, because Charlotte was bad, or you didn't want to hang out in the bathroom." So anyway, so I'm at the hotel and I'm drinking a beer. Well, I go to pee, and then as I'm going into Jake's room, I'm thinking, "Wait a minute, where's the snake?" And then I was, he's at a car show. He's not bringing the snake here. So I walked in the bathroom, and I'm standing there, and I'm peeing, and all of a sudden that white cobra comes out of the sink like this, and that hood spreads open. And I freak out, and I snatch that thing, and I'm running down the hallway with my stuff in my hand. And I was, oh God! I went back, hey, we got to finish. So anyway, yeah, we've had some fun.
Yes, sir. The snake handling the snake.
Yeah.
Right, I've got a question from Captain. He says, "What do you think about YouTubers like Logan Paul wrestling?"
Well, I mean, I guess it's okay. Come one, come all. I mean, the greatest show on earth, right? Geeks, freaks, and whatever. But he's had 1 million followers on YouTube or something like that, and so I could see why WWE, they're trying to capitalize and get everybody's money.
Amy's in the chat. Shouts to Amy, the lovely Amy. She's a great. I've been talking to Amy for like a year now. It's because we check in every couple months. You say hi, check it again. Hey, didn't forget you. So shouts to Amy for coordinating everything. But she says Sam has a lot of great stories. Tell them we need the encyclopedia style collection to write the memoirs for sure, dude. You got one of those memories, like you got date memories, place memories. I'm like, where you were? And you're like, I was here April 13th, 1987, in Providence, Rhode Island. You're like, okay, that's good. And so that's something there. That's something to think about there, brother.
Well, and I've been hitting the head with a lot of steel chairs. So like to retain that kind of stuff, and something else, cowbells and stuff like that. I mean, people have hit me with everything, run my head in the ring post. Anyway, what I wanted to my friend Black Bart, he was always your enemy and nemesis and stuff like that. But when I first started wrestling, and the reason I tried so hard and I ate food on August the 13th that year is because the next day the Superdome, Bill Watts was having the Superdome extravaganza in New Orleans, and I wanted to be at that show because I was a big wrestling mark.
Right.
Well, when Watts was in the dressing room, I always tried to make myself scarce because he always liked to yell and scream at people and stuff like that. And I just didn't want, be in it. And I had my neck all bandaged up and stuff. And Bart had wrestled against Iron Mike Sharp. And I guess Mike Sharp beat him or something. And anyway, so go up to Watts would come in and so I was over talking to Bart. And I asked him, I said, well, you know, got beat, but is it worth it? And he said, you damn straight or damn right it's worth it. He goes, look at me. I'm wrestling in the biggest coliseum in the United States tonight. When I thought about it, I was like, yeah, you are. And yeah, you did. Nobody can ever take that away from you. So that, changed my mind and it helped me fueled my desire to get in the business. And then me and Bart, we had our battles and there ain't lots of bloody battles. But anyway, a couple years back, I had this idea. Bart was doing the chemotherapy and stuff like that, and I want to help out. And even though Bart's gone, I can still help the family with donations, and just financial help here and there. And what I got was a couple years ago, I asked Bart if I got the stuff, would he do it? And Bart made these Texas bull ropes, and they're. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm hanging it the wrong way. He signed one side. I've signed the other side.
Amen.
And it comes in a potato sack.
Oh, nice.
With Bart on one side and me on the other. And I want to let people know if they'd be interested in some sort of memorabilia like that. I've only got about 14 of them left. Bart made me 30 bells. And going donation for it is $500. And if you're interested and you want a piece of history like that, please reach out to Amy over on my Sam Houston Facebook page. And then I've also got a limited supply of these color 8x10s. Bart's already put his signature on it. He did this before he passed away. And this is so we can continue to help his family. So if anybody's interested in some stuff like that, I sure would appreciate it. Just reach out to Amy and we'll take care of you. But but Bar was great.
Oh yeah, that's fun, man. I love the cowbell, man. Everybody's get more cowbell, right?
Yeah, with more cowboy bell. Yeah, Christopher Walken, I got you.
Oh my goodness. All right, we got a question from Dave. He says, you worked as both a technician and an underdog. Which style felt more natural to you?
I guess the underdog thing. But now I'm just knock the snot out of you type of guy now. Yeah. But yeah, I guess most of the guys that wrestled were 300 pounds. I'm a tall guy, and my ring weight was anywhere from usually 220 or sometimes as light as 217. But then I got up to most of the time I was about 225, 227. I did get up for a brief period of time to 240. But most of the guys that I wrestled against were these huge monsters. So for me, it was better to be an underdog and then come out every once in a while with a little something, Hey, that's like Nikita Koloff one night on TV. I asked Dusty, I said, what am I going to do? He didn't have too much experience. He said, baby, always be remembered. I'm like, okay. So I got out there with Nikita, and Nikita backed me up. He smacked my face like that. I spun him around and slapped the snot out of him. Now, I can't tell you, and probably nobody could unless they stood there and counted each one. I can't tell you how many clotheslines, how many body slams, and how many of this, that, and the other that I took that night. But any of the wrestling fans will tell you is, did you see that kid slap the shit out of him? Yeah, Dusty told me always be remembered.
Yeah. You can't be remembered if you don't do memorable shit. Is what I always say. That's
Yeah,
why.
yeah, but I had, like I said before, I had lost that, and then but I found that back in me, and I've been doing my best. And what was cool was when I got out of prison, I hadn't been in the ring in 7 years. And the CACs, man, it's a wonderful organization. If you don't know about the Cauliflower Alley Club, y'all, and if you're a big wrestling fan, please contribute, help out, whatever, because, man, they help us out. They help the wrestlers that can't help themselves. And but anyway, so they let me wrestle at the Cauliflower Alley Club. Now, I hadn't been in the ring in 7 years, and um, I wrestled Sin Bodie, which is one of Jake's best friends. Anyway, and when I saw this guy, he looked like a butcher or something like that. Blood, all kind of gory stuff. Anyway, I just kept it simple. And after 15 minutes, I rolled out of the ring. And when I rolled out of the ring, Chris Christopherson, the Highwayman, Chris Christopherson, dude, Stars Born, Chris Christopherson, Rubber Duck, Chris Christopherson. He got right up in my face and he put his finger in my nose and he said, "You're the real shit, man." And to me, that was like better than winning a world title, man. I ran back to the dressing room, threw my shirt on, ran back out there, took pictures with him, and he had a little Chihuahua poncho. So it was a cool day for me in Vegas, even though I wasn't drinking, partying, or nothing like that. So I remember that one.
Nice. All right, we got questions coming in hot. We love it. Keep them coming, guys. It says, JB says, I feel like today's wrestlers lack the larger-than-life personalities from your era. Do you agree? If so, what do you think changed? I would say social media myself, but what do you?
Oh yeah. Social media, and everything today is they're pushing the super cards or superstar, the superstars or something. Everything's geared to pay per view, or what have you, or the network now. Are they still doing that?
They call PLEs, I think, premium level events.
Oh, I don't know. I don't watch too much of it anymore. I just if I was a plumber, I wouldn't watch another plumber put a toilet in on my day off.
I feel it. All right, we got a question from Captain. He says, which wrestler turned actor has the best movies? Oh, that's a good one. I would say Roddy Piper because I like that movie he was in.
They Live. That was a good one. I don't know. I mean, Dwayne Johnson's doing really good with his. Of course, like when I was working, that's when Hogan did his, like the nanny one and all that over with that one with Zeus in it and stuff.
The whole bar band.
Yeah, but I saw the Marine one. I've seen The Rock in several different things, and he's really good. I was really impressed with everything they did in the Rundown with Stifler and Christopher Walken and stuff. But yeah, everybody's branching out and they're being pushed. Let them go.
Yes, sir. All right, JB's got another one coming in. With so many legendary wrestlers in Mid-South, do you have any cool stories with any of them, like JYD, Jim Cornette, Rock and Roll Express, Duggan, DiBiase, etc.?
Oh yeah, well, like DiBiase taught me the world one night to an Eagles song. We were riding down the road. He was dead tired and couldn't go any further. And that time I was working in gas stations and driving the record truck for the gas stations. And Teddy had a Smokey and the Bandit. I think it was a '79 Trans Am with a 350 with a Rochester 4-barrel carburetor and a turbo 400 transmission. And me and my buddy Mike Champagne, high school buddy, we're in automotive class together. We started doing some work on the linkages, and we got that linkage or the carburetor to where when Teddy stepped on the gas, it would just go whoop whoop and would be gone. You know, he said it passed anything on the road but a gas station now. So, but yeah, he taught me well, he Teddy taught me a lot. I learned how to talk Carney because of him. Uh, he said a word and I was able to put it all together. Uh, but anyway, you spend all your time making money. You can spend all your love making time. If it all fell to pieces tomorrow, would you still be mine? You know, that was the song that the Take It to the Limit, I believe. But yeah, Junkyard Dog. I used to drive him around in his Mercedes and stuff, putting on the miles and stuff. Johnny Mantel, I was 15 years old. I had a 72 Gran Torino Super Sport, and Johnny was broke down in Baton Rouge. So my dad called up to school, checked me out early. I had to go in Baton Rouge. I had to go pick up Johnny at his place, and then drive him up to the matches in Shreveport. So I was already smoking cigarettes and everything, but none of the boys knew it, you know. So I pick up Johnny and I'm driving. We get to Krotz Springs and I was, wanting some nicotine. So I stopped the car and I pulled into the store and I went in and I told Johnny, I said, I hope you don't mind. I said, but I smoke, you know. And he goes, oh. So I'm going down the road smoking a cigarette. He goes, well, do you mind if I smoke? And I was like, no, go ahead. So he pulls out his pipe and he loads his pipe up and he's pretty, And I was like, so I take a couple of tokes off of it and stuff like that. And I was like, nah, here, try mine. It's better. So we got to Shreveport that night. I guess I was on the stage laughing and everything and having a good time talking to friends of mine and stuff. And my dad looked at my eyes and he looked and he took off marching and he went over to the dressing room on the other side. And I was right behind him going, whoa, whoa. And he walked in there and he looked at Johnny Mantel and he fired him right on the spot.
Mhm.
And I said, Dad, you can't fire him like that just because I said it wasn't his. I said mine was better, And my dad did turn around and had to hire him back. So
That's great. That's great.
yeah.
Now,
So
you know,
those
one
were
coming from Dave. Dave says, we kind of answered this earlier. Do you still follow wrestling today? If so, who impresses you the most?
um yeah, I've seen some stuff that I'm real that I've been, somewhat impressed with. Um you got a guy now. I'd rather instead of watching it on TV because then everything is so choreographed
Hmm.
and put together. It's not like wrestling anymore. It's like it's a dance contest or a dance routine now. Um, there's a fella that just got signed off onto with NXT. His name is Joaquin McNair.
Okay.
Yeah, I've worked out with him at Lodi's uh, Team Fearless. Lodi's got a training center, a little gym where he's a private trainer, and then on the evenings, on 3 days a week, he has wrestling class, and stuff like that. I've gone there quite a few times and worked out with people and stuff. Like I
Okay.
said, I'm trying to get my wind back up. I'm smoking cigarettes. That's the one
Yeah.
thing. Even though the stage 3 cancer, and then Jason Hart, gosh, he's the medicine man. He pulled that sickness out of my body. My wife that we were all doing tobacco prayers. Um, uh, he pulled it. He used eagle bones and a golden eagle feather to find out where it was. And it really put me on a quest to learn more about my roots and to learn more about what's really going on. And what I'm learning now is the truth, uh, and it can blow your mind. It's one of those things you gotta be uh, get ready to sit down and get all into it,
Oh, yeah.
and not live on like this little everyday thing that we're trying to do what we can to make ends meet. We've got to do what we can for each other.
Yes, sir.
You
All right, we
know.
got a question coming in from Dave. Your sister Rockin' Robin had a strong WWF run. What was it like watching her succeed?
Oh, it was great, because Nelson Royal trainer, which Nelson was my first really full time tag team partner. I was blessed. I was able to get to work with Johnny Weaver, with Jimmy Valiant, Rufus Jones, so many of the great ones that came before us. I was able to be on the road with them and work with them and stuff like that. Well, Nelson, whenever things started happening for me with Dusty and Magnum, well, you had Dusty and Magnum, and then you had this little kid. Well, this little kid, because it was always just, they were best friends and stuff, and I was like a tag along, kind of, that was the protege. Well, for things with against the Andersons, like if Dusty was working with Flair and Magnum
Yeah.
was with Tully, you got Ole and Arn. So give me somebody. So sometimes it'd be like it's just different guys. And then Nelson, they brought Nelson back out of retirement to teach me how to be a ring general. You know, teach me how to be able to control a match and what to do. That's when Nelson came out, and he was and boy, we had a blast together. Nelson's a great wrestler, and he helped me. He taught me how to mess with the rope and the whole 9 yards. He taught me how to bulldog stuff. So, um, but I was blessed in that way. So I was with Nelson, and we'd be wrestling with against Ole and Arn or who have you. But I forgot what the question was.
I did too. I'm not. I can't.
I started rolling on to something else. I'm sorry.
Yeah. We'll
Oh,
go on.
Robin. Yeah. Okay.
Rockin' Robin. That's right. Yeah, Rockin' Robin.
So then when Robin decided she wanted to get into it, she didn't want to go to Mula's school or nothing like that. And so Nelson trained Robin. Robin moved up here with Nelson. And I was living in Charlotte. I'd go up there and we'd work out. I'd work out in the ring. And Nelson would tell me, he goes, she's got all the mechanics and but she's got this, that, and the other, but she just doesn't have that fire. He's like, I'm gonna have to do something. When I do it, don't get mad. And I was like, okay, because you got to get it out of somebody. But sometimes it takes something to get it out of you. And Nelson locked up with her, and my mom was there, and Karen, Nelson's wife, was there, and Shannon, Shasha, Nelson's daughter, was there. Anyway, Nelson locked up with Robin, backed her up in the corner, and when he backed her up in the corner and they broke clean, he slapped the snot out of her across her face. And when he did, she just blew up, exploded, and all that emotion and everything just come out. And she went to beating, and he took to running, and it was the funniest thing. Here's Nelson Roll and Robin and my mom and his wife and daughter all chasing him as he's running. Good thing Nelson was in shape. But yeah, and then I was there for her first match with Susan Green in Fort Worth at Billy Bob's. And then she started doing her thing, working some, and then she came up and went to work for Vince. And the greatest thing about my sister is she didn't wrestle like the girls. She wrestled like the guys, and she was the first one to come along to have that style. And her and Sherry Martel had awesome matches.
Oh yeah.
Because they were going out there, and instead of trying to do spots, they were trying to go out there and work a program.
Yes, sir.
There's something to come back with, something to come back with, something to come back with. Uh, and that's what was so cool with me. It doesn't matter how many times I wrestled Arn Anderson. Every time we got in the ring, we had that intensity. Every time I wrestled Crusher Khrushchev, Barry Darso, we had that intensity. Black Bart, we had that intensity. Me and Eddie Gilbert. And like I said, I was so blessed to be able to be in the ring with so many great guys. I'm talking Eddie Gilbert, Kurt Hennig, Crusher Khrushchev, Barry Darso, Ric Flair, Tully Blanchard. Every time I got in the ring with Tully, I learned something, you know.
Yes, sir.
Um, but yeah, so I guess the business for me, I mean, it's been great, and I love it, and it's something I'll never turn away from or anything like that. But now in my life, from the cancer and this, that, and the other, and I'm married to, oh gosh, she's the greatest thing in the world. Um, she's just awesome. I've never been so happy in my life, and um, I'm putting family first now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, you got a question coming in from Captain. He says, "Do the wrestling organizations do enough to look after the long-term health effects of the wrestlers?"
No, no, I don't think so. I mean, I don't know how it is today, but in my day, no, they didn't do anything. I mean, somebody got hurt, like Crockett when Darso, when I beat him for the Mid Atlantic title, tore his knee out. He was out for 9 months. But the boys all got together, and we all had money taken out of our paychecks every week to send to him because he had just had a son, Dakota, I believe, and he had just had his son, and he didn't have any money coming in. But what Crockett did, and this is the one thing I did respect about Crockett, what Crockett did was Crockett matched the money that we put up, and he was able to, survive and keep going.
Okay, nice, nice. All right, we got another question. We got a bunch of questions. Let's try to get to them all, guys. Let's see. In your opinion, has there ever been a crazier match than Mankind versus the Undertaker in the Hell in the Cell?
Well, let's see. That was wild. I mean, I will give you that. That was like off the chain, over the top wild. Um, but I mean, I've been traumatized before when I watched Harley Race jump off of a 15-foot ladder. Or no, it was 10 feet. Well, it was booked as a 15-foot ladder, but it's probably a 10-footer. And he dropped a knee across my dad's throat, and they took it, wheeled my dad to the hospital, talking about a crushed thorax and everything else. I mean, there's
Oof.
been traumatic things. And then my dad wore a neck brace at home for 6 weeks.
Ah,
We thought he was done. But yeah, I mean, that was, yeah, that's probably, I mean, it's iconic. Uh, but yeah, traumatic things have happened. I mean, like Ox Baker. What do you think he felt when he hit Enrique Torres? I think it was a heart punch. Then he died.
ah,
You know.
that's crazy. All right, now we got a question from Captain. What is your favorite dog breed?
Well, I have to say this now because I have Oliver, and he is an Australian Shepherd. He's my asshole dog. He's an Australian Shepherd. They told me he was going to be 65 pounds, but I feed him really good. He's not fat. But he's got the body size close to the Dalmatian that I had years ago. So he's long, and he's I don't know. He's my buddy. I mean, we hang out all day, every day.
You gotta brush that dog a lot, right? Those dogs shed like a Dickens
No,
bird.
he's a short haired one. He doesn't have
Oh,
that
okay.
long. Oh yeah, they do shed a lot. He does. I mean, I'm sweeping up, mopping up, after him all the time, vacuuming up, whatever.
That's great. All right, question from Captain. He says, if you were starting out now, would you consider MMA?
Sure, you know. I mean, I don't see why not. I mean, I've already like I used to work out with Ken Shamrock all the time. I wrestled that Paul Valorant's guy. He's about 6'6", 300. I blew him up bad down in Dallas at the Sportatorium. Uh, but I've worked out with a few of those guys and stuff like that. They're cool, you know.
Okay. We got another question from Dick.
Once you grab somebody, and I think there's a respect thing, because there was a guy in Sherman, Texas, with the MMA thing, the whole 9 yards, and he when they introduced me as a wrestler, he kind of like smirked and this, that, and the other until I snatched him and hooked his head and put him in a front face lock. And then I let him go, he had a whole new respect for me after that.
Hell yeah. All right, question from Dave. Which match or feud for your career doesn't get talked about enough?
Oh, I don't know. People remember a lot of the things I've done, and the feuds that I've had. The major ones, I guess, would be uh, me against Black Bart, me and Crusher Khrushchev, me and Danny Davis, me and Arn Anderson. Gosh, and then there were the guys in Texas and stuff like that. But out in Texas for the territories, it was just matches. Really wasn't, it never blew up into feuds. I mean, I worked against Murdoch for about a year, but it wasn't really a feud. It was just matches. We
Okay.
always coming back in different things. I remember Christmas Day. It was me and Kevin Von Erich. We were partners after Kerry uh, uh, was gone. They brought me down to Texas to be Kevin's partner for a few months. But we were working against Murdoch and Rhodes or Randy Rhodes. I was JBL's tag team partner there for a while, and our feud was the Rock and Roll Express. Now, like I said the other day when I did JBL's interview or podcast, him and Gerald Briscoe, I said, I don't remember. I said, I know we wrestled Ricky and Robert a lot. And I said, and I've been able to get replicas of all the titles I held, and I couldn't remember if we beat Ricky and Robert for the NWA World Tag Team titles in Texas. I said those were my drinking days because I was drinking pretty good then too. Sam, he goes, but we're gonna say we did beat them for the belts because we're better than they are. I was like, okay, so I have to go with that right now. So that was a good feud though. They would tell me every night if I tagged him in, they were going to kill me.
All right, we got follow up questions from Captain. He says, "How were the groupies on the road, and then what town had the best groupies?"
Really, I mean, I didn't hang out with them for that or anything like that because I was, they were more of my friends growing up. They were like watching me at the matches or keeping an eye on me because I had no supervision. Um, you know, so I don't I mean, I know who was familiar and stuff like that, but I didn't, you know, you know of them or them. For me, it was a thing. Hey, I just need a Coke. Would you give me a Coke or whatever? I'm good with everything else.
All right,
But
we got.
huh?
Oh, go ahead.
No, but I'd always had, I was always in relationships or something like that, so I didn't mess around with the girls too much.
I got you. I got you. All right, Dave asks, you held titles in NWA, Central States, and GFW. Which championship meant the most to you and why?
um, I think the Mid Atlantic title, and I would say because when I got that, I knew that I had reached a good point, that I had earned it and deserved it. And then the Central States title, that was, I won that. And that was cool because I beat like five guys in one night for the Central States title. So I had like a lot of matches that night. And then the GWF title, that was pretty cool too. But to me, that didn't carry the same weight. You
Okay.
know, the hot thing about the GWF title is because now I can say I'm the champion for ESPN, right? Um, you know, so anyway, but I
All
think
right.
my Mid Atlantic title, that was the first one. Yeah, that was the one. Boom.
Perfect, man. All right. Question from JB. Do you think social media has hurt wrestlers' ability to have a true character because fans know too much about the actual person?
Well, can I be honest here about characters and stuff? I don't buy into that anyway. Um, I think the athlete, that person, I think the character or whatever, what works the best is it to be an extension of that real person? You know, I saw Sam Houston as Sam Houston is just an extension of, of everything that I am, and people can buy it because it's real. You
Yep.
know, and then you've got somebody that comes along like the Undertaker. His work is so good and so convincing, and he is the Undertaker. You know, uh, like I don't know, gosh, but when you go and you're trying to make characters now, like Steve Austin is an extension of himself. You know, so to me, character. I don't buy into characters. Remember the Ping and Pong or whatever it was, or the no, it was Ding Dongs, the two mascots for what kind of character is that? Mankind, that was okay, but there you start. I don't know. You're teasing the unbelievable. You know what I mean? And
Right.
you're taking. I think it's taking legitimacy away some. You
Yes,
know.
sir. All right. A question from Captain. Do you like midget wrestling?
Yeah, I mean, me and Cowboy Lang were great friends. Me and Little Coco were great friends. I was friends when I was a young kid. I would take care of whenever somebody would fly in to work for Watts or something like that. Wahoo McDaniels would fly in. I'm driving them around for the week. If the midgets came in, I'm driving them around for a week. When the girls came in, the girl wrestlers, I was the chauffeur. I was do whatever I got to get done. But the midgets, yeah, me and Cowboy Lang were really cool. We're good friends. We partied a lot together, and that had to be something. You got one guy 6'3" with his hat and his vest on or whatever, and then the little version of him that's 4 foot tall. It was fun, but he was a tough little son of a gun. I picked him up at the airport in New Orleans, and they were coming in for the Superdome extravaganza, another one. Um, this one was when I was younger. Yeah, I was like must have been 16 or something. Anyway, he lands at the airport, and I pick him up in New Orleans. I'm driving him back to Baton Rouge, and we're listening to the radio. I think it was WWL or something, and there was this DJ. His name was Scoot in the morning. And he's like 6'3", tall, blonde-headed guy, about 180 pounds. Well, he's doing the promo for the Superdome extravaganza. And me and Cowboy were driving down the road. And he runs the card down and he says the midget match. And he's already announced like Duggan and Dr. Death and all these other names. And he goes, I wouldn't mess with none of them guys. He goes, I think I would try one of them midgets. So Cowboy Lang made me turn my car around. We drove back to New Orleans. I took him to the radio station. He walked in there. He accepted the challenge on the air. The night of the match is at the Superdome. Scoot comes up to him. He's tall guy, tall and skinny, probably weighed about 170 pounds, whatever. He had the sequins top hat on and a cape and the whole 9 yards. And I'm sitting there and I'm laughing. And he goes, "What?" He come up to Cowboy and he goes, "What do you want to do?" And Cowboy goes, "I'm gonna whip your ass." He's like, "Huh?" So they get in the ring, and the first thing Cowboy does, he snatches his leg, takes him down, puts him in a sleeper, and put him out.
That's great.
Last I heard, Scoot in the morning is in some way south Louisiana, out in the swampland. He's got a radio station, and he's got a job at a station out there. But yeah, I was there for that one, so I can.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right,
But
question.
my career, I've been able to do a lot of great things. Like I got to wrestle in the cards in the world's biggest party for Vince McMahon. We opened up for the Who at the Astrodome, and then at Reunion Arena for the Who. We wrestled, and then the Who played. That's a pretty good thing. I got to do that twice.
Oh,
Anyway, there was a question I seen come up, and then Went
Oh
away.
yeah. JVS, what was the craziest thing you've seen a fan in the audience do at a match?
Oh, let's see. Well, my grandmother helped me win the AWA world title from Jimmy Garvin, so that's got to be up there. I've seen fans get in the ring. I had one grandmother. Somebody threw a knife in the ring while my dad was wrestling the Assassins, and my mom had flown his mother up to the Carolinas and was going to surprise my dad. Somebody threw the knife while they were in the ring working, and my grandma rolled in the ring, grabbed the knife, and then rolled back out. And my dad turns around and sees his mom. That was pretty. That was something. You know. But I've seen a lot of stuff. I've seen riots happen. Bob Sweetan wrestled my dad in a cage match in Baton Rouge at Independence Hall. My dad won the match. He's walking back to the dressing room, but Sweetan had so much heat that the people were throwing their chairs in the cage. They had filled the chairs up chest high. I mean, filled the ring up, the caged ring up chest high with chairs. It was Tiger, Don Duffy, I think it was Jerry Miller, I think Randy Tyler was in it, and Rip Tyler fought their way to the ring, was able to get uh, Sweetan out, and then fight their way back to the dressing room.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
so that's pretty wild stuff. Yeah,
It's crazy. All right, a question from Dave. You were trained by Dusty Rhodes and Magnum TA. What's the biggest lesson each of them left you with?
always be remembered.
Yes, sir. Always be
Win, lose, or
remembered. Yes, sir.
draw, always be remembered. And
Yes,
the
sir.
most important thing I think I'll say too on that, and it's just an acknowledgement to the fans. And I'll give this advice to somebody young coming into the business that wants. Whenever you go outside, go out in front of those people, acknowledge them, give them a wave, and then after your match is over, win, lose, or draw, give them a wave and let them know that you know that they were there for you. Most
Yes,
important.
sir. Yes, sir. I got to ask you about the Survivor Series in Richfield in 1998 or 1988. Sorry, the Coliseum there. Do
Is
you?
that
Can I show you? I want to show you a quick clip because this made me laugh so much. It's like 40 seconds. I want to
okay?
watch. I want to play this, and we'll have you some questions on the other side.
So
Okay.
on Thanksgiving night, it's gonna be nothing but bad news, honky tonk man. Cause you, Rob Bass, Valentine, Davis, and the rest of your boys are gonna be in trouble. Because the rest of this team right here are so fired up to kick your butts. I can hardly hold the warrior down on the ground. He's gonna fly right out into the air. How many time zones? How many warp speeds did we have when that spaceship came through the time tunnel? It doesn't matter that we're all crispy and ready to go. We're all ready to crack. But at the Survivor Series, you're going to see a crack in a big way. The shell's going to come apart, and we're going to explode.
All right, now, how do you keep a straight face when the Ultimate Warriors are saying shit like "we're crispy and ready"? Like, where does he come up with this shit?
I don't think I was probably listening to him. Anyway, I was on the road with Jim for about 2 years before they started pushing him, so I'd already known like pretty much how he was and stuff. Jim was a great guy. I love him to death. I took him to my bootmaker. We landed in El Paso, Texas. He has something happen in at the baggage claim. He ended up wadding up somebody's VHS camera and leaving it there on the baggage claim. When I pulled up to get the rent a car, he goes to throw his bags in. One of them bounced out. He grabbed the back end of the car, and this was a Taurus, and he's bouncing the back end of the car off of the pavement about like this, screaming the F word. There's two Mexican police officers there, and they said, "Buddy, we're glad you got him. We're out of here." I was like, "Dude," said, "I'm not taking you to my bootmaker like that." I said, "You're going to have to smoke some pot with me." So he did, and then after that, we were okay. But yeah, Jim was a good buddy, a good friend. But yeah, whenever he'd start talking like that, he was in a whole different place.
We're crispy and ready for the time total.
Yeah.
That was so funny, dude. Oh my goodness. All right, let's see here. All right, Don asks Sam his thoughts on the Dark Side of the Ring episode about your father.
Well, it was hurt. I mean, it hurt and stuff like that. But you gotta face up to this stuff. You know, I mean, my whole life's been in public. So every time I went to a AA meeting, it's all over town. That's supposed to be anonymous. Uh, hey, that guy's got some great stories. Talks about Andre the Giant and stuff. But anyway, yeah, the Dark Side of the Ring. I mean, it was cool because then I got to hear. I'd really never heard this. I knew a little bit of how my siblings had been affected, but I didn't know the full scale. You know, and I'm unraveling and finding more and more things out every day. I'd mentioned about my sister being kidnapped in 1979, 2 days before Thanksgiving. Well, there's a private investigator out there now. His name is Jim Terry, and he's found evidence. He says that my sister's still alive. Well, that's great. I'm here. I would love to have my sister back in my life and stuff like that, but I don't know if she's ready for that. You know, and if she's ready for that, I'm here for you, Jolene. I really am. You were taken much too soon, but I didn't know. I'm finding out now that her disappearance too, and her decision to stay gone after she got away from the kidnappers. If that was her, I don't know these things. See, I'm still going through a lot. I'm still trying to filter through a lot of things, And one day it'll all come out. All be revealed. Like I've never had that. Our family was never. I mean, Robin and I were tight when we were growing up, but we've lost all that. I guess from the miles and everything and the years apart.
Okay. You talked about WrestleMania 4. Now, are battle royales harder than a regular match? And did you get to meet Donald Trump?
Oh yeah, got to meet him. That was cool. Battle rules are harder than regular matches because, first of all, you don't need to be bumping all over the place. You know, so you need to be able to stay on your feet or get in a position where you can be on your feet most of the time. What you have to watch for is other guys taking bumps and falling down into your knee. I seen Ole Anderson get his knee knocked out, and he'd be out for 6 months because somebody fell backwards into the side of his leg or something. But those kind of injuries happen. They happen. It's hard to get away from. Battle royals are harder that way, and in a regular match, it's so much easier for the people to focus on two than it is to focus on 20.
Yes, sir. All right. Describe working with Kurt Hennig and rate his ability to party. And was he the perfect partier? I used to love the little videos when they would do something like shoot a golf shot or basketball. And that's perfect.
Well, the first time I worked with Kurt was in Madison Square Garden, and I was so excited when I found out I was working against him. And I went looking for his dressing room because, I loved his work, and I don't know if he knew who I was or not or whatever, but I wanted to introduce myself and tell him how much I was looking forward to this match because anytime you're in the ring with somebody that good, you're going to learn. And it brings out the best in you. And boy, he was just as excited to meet me as I was to meet him because he had been following my career too. And it was awesome. And yeah, he was a great guy. He was fun. Just popping off the quips here and there and the other, just making fun, having fun, and he not hurting anybody. Then he did have the ribs and stuff, and those were good too. I'm not sure about being the perfect party. I didn't really party with him that much. We went out a few times and stuff. I remember one night, uh, we were in Pennsylvania and we pulled up. We were both staying at the Red Roof Inn, and I had pulled up, and not long right. I hadn't wasn't even getting out of my car yet. Then he pulls up, and we both had a T-bird, just different colors. We looked at each other. It's like, hey. So I get out of the car, and he said, "Hey, Sam." He goes, "I got some cheese that's really good." And I was like, "Cool." He goes, I said, "I got a case of beer." So he goes, "Bring it on down." Well, So I go down there and we're drinking beer and smoking and everything. We're talking about what was going on in the dressing room and all the drama and this stuff. We're laughing and everything. So you know how when you start getting hungry and wanting the munchies and stuff like that. So he calls. He says he goes, hey man, he goes, I gotta wash my gear out. He goes, why don't you call Domino's and order us a couple of pizzas? So I said, sure. I go over there to the phone. Domino's Pizza, how can I help you? I said, my name is Kurt Hennig, Mr. Perfect. Do you know who I am? And he's like, yes, sir. I said, okay, let me tell you something, you pencil neck geek. I want to, boy, and I started giving the guy my order and everything, and just like saying stupid stuff. And then at the end, I said, hey, I got to know one thing. How does it feel at night when you lay in bed with your wife that she's thinking, she's thinking about me, So anyway, I'm thinking, I get off the phone and we're sitting there, we're smoking a little bit more, and that all of a sudden it ain't like 20 minutes before the knock on the door. Wow, pizza's here that fast. And Kurt opens the door, and the guy freaks out because it really is Kurt. And they were thinking, oh, it's some guy, playing a joke or whatever. So Kurt gets the pizzas, and he tries to, pay the guy, and the guy goes, no, no, no. And Kurt had a 50, and he stuck it in his pocket. He said, keep that. So he gives me a pizza, and he got a pizza, and he dives right in. And I get mine up to about right here, and I started thinking, man, all the trash I was talking to that guy, there's got to be loogies on here somewhere. I put the pizza down, folded the box, shifted it over to him, and he goes, what's wrong? You're not hungry? I said, no, man, I'm just going to ride this out. And he's like, okay. He ate all of his and part of mine, too. I told him the next day what I did, and he's like, yeah. So he was great. And then I found out that later on that I guess in some memoirs or something that he wrote down his three best matches were Nick Bockwinkel, Bret Hart, and me. So I thought that was a cool thing.
That's awesome, man. It's been a great interview, brothers. It's been awesome, man. This has been a good time. Awesome.
Hey, thank you, man, and thank you for letting me get a shout out. And if people want to follow me, tell them to reach out to me over at Facebook under Sam Houston. Easy to find. Can't get me because I really do. I stay busy, and I got 50 acres here that we just love taking care of, being with the animals, being with the in-laws, the family, everything. I'm really happiest I've ever been. But yeah, just reach out to me, and I'm not hard to find.
Yes, sir. All right. We always ask everybody this before we get out of here. Beatles or Queen? Who do you pick out of those two bands?
Oh, I guess we'd have to do Queen.
Okay.
Well, as far as wrestling goes, another one bites the dust, We're the Champions, stuff like that. Other than that, I don't listen to too much of them. I did have to sing a John Lennon song, and I had to sing a Beatles song drunk in Japan at the karaoke bar because I was guy.
Those guys love that karaoke. What is your Japan?
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness. When you're sober, Sam, karaoke is so hard.
Oh, it is.
You get 7-8 beers. Well, to do it's fine. I can do karaoke sober. I'm a talk show host. I can talk all day. Yeah. But like to get up there and to be at a karaoke bar when other people are singing and you're sober, that's death, dude. Some of these people think because they'll get 5, White Claws in them and think they're Aretha Franklin. They get up there and they sound like Milli Vanilli, the unedited version. It was bad, man. It's horrible.
Yeah. It's well, I can carry a tune in a bucket sometimes, so I'm all right.
Yes, sir. We'd like to thank Mr. Sam Houston for coming out, guys. Don't forget to join me Monday at noon. Justin Masterston, former Indians pitcher, is going to be on. And next Friday at 10 a.m., the 20th, Gene Snitsky is going to be on. So that's going to be a good one, too. Thanks, you, Sam. Appreciate it, brother. It's been fun,
all right,
man.
Take care.
All right, for sure.